If your father offered your body to the devil as sacrifice, what would you do? Beginning with a woman who is ready to give birth to her spouse. The scene shifts to the lord of the land Daig Kagemitsu traveling to the demon temple. There is a priest speaking in a serene manner. He starts running away to save his own life after being warned not to bargain with demons and warned that only hell will be waiting for him on the other side if he does. But Daig kills him with a swipe of his katana, because he is happy to have the demons bring wealth and prosperity to his cursed land. And in exchange, they are free to take anything from this. Demons respond to his summons and accept his offer. As a result, lightning hits and the son named Dichos is born. However, what is born is not a human. His limbs, eyes, nose, ears, skin all stripped from him by the demons, and what's left is a living lump of flesh. That asshole Daig let me at him. Anyway, Dicho orders lady who helped in giving birth to the child. A nurse, he ordered the lady to take him away and kill him. The lady, however, it can't bring yourself to sink that low and decides to set the child adrift on a boat, leaving the rest up to fate. Several years later, we come across an orphan kid named Roro who goes around conning people for money, but gets caught this time. As he's being beat up, a demon god shows up and eats the men up. The demons lunges at Duro with the slimy hands. But at the last moment, a young boy Hyakkimaru slices the demon's head off upon a closer inspection. Dororo realizes that Hyakki man whose entire body's made of prosthetics, even his face and eyes are fake. And then how the hell is he slicing monsters? Oh wait. Now I get it. He can see people's sills. That's neat. Anyway, Jacob Naido dashes toward the demon with his prosthetic hands that can turn into katanas and ends the demon for good. Suddenly, Hyakkimaru's body started shaking and his prosthetic face falls off. The muscles of his face began to form a layer of skin and he gets his face back. So from what we see, if he kills the demons that took each of his body parts, then they'll get it all back. Dororo decides to follow Hyakkimaru and thus begins a journey of Hyakkimaru in Toronto in search of cleaning his body. He went to a community where it is said that a demon will slay any human. However, it transpires that Bandai, the village head, is actually the demon, and they are imprisoned in a warehouse. There they encountered a traveling monk with the phrase, "Beware," who also happens to slay teammates. He is unable to understand what is going on with the blind team and slayers, so our boys are left in the dark. Yes, Komodo and the old monk easily pursue Bondi and slate her identity as one of the 12 demon gods is revealed, and killing her restores Gekimadu's feeling of touch and suffering. Absolutely everything is fine. However, you might be wondering how he came to have so many artificial limbs. The following episode transports us back a number of years to Chu Chai, a man who was formerly a soldier who killed many people, but after learning about his past, he began spending his days building wooden prostheses for people to use. He did this while resting by the river, directly after his student, whom he had loved as his own child. He discovers a boat with a child who is without limbs inside, witnesses the child's resolve to live, is moved to tears and chooses to give his race the name Hyakkimaru. However, as Hyakkimaru becomes older and more developed, the child begins to show instinctive skill. Jukai chooses to teach Hyakkimaru the abilities he learned as a soldier and sends him on a quest, as a result of the demons drawn to his aura. A sword that feeds on blood, and has an odd preference for human blood in particular, is the following demon god that disgusting Mato and Dororo encounter. When Hyakkimaru eventually defeats the demon sword, and its wielder after a bloody battle, his body begins to tremble once more, and his prosthetic ears come off. His hearing is returning this time, but it's intolerable to hear so many different sounds at once, and he is incapable of defeating a team of inferior strength. He's being attacked by a group in the woods, but he finds it difficult to focus due to all the new noises, and just when it seems that the awful motto could triumph, the old Mark shows up and slices the team up with a cool-looking move. I mean, did you see that slice? The injured Yukimoto lay in the forest covering his ears. All the sounds occlusive pals, hissing of sticks, whatever sound crickets make the screams do for two frogs meeting in the distance. Yeah, it was weird. But amidst all that noise comes a soothing melody that doesn't strike in his ears. Yakimov gets up and follows the melody until he comes across a young and beautiful lady named Mil Cochlea. She takes the trio to her old cottage to attend to Jackie Morris. Once there, she introduces them to the children who she lives with. All of their parents were killed in the war, and now she works at a camp and has created a safe haven for the children to Pure must protect. Hyakkimaru keeps listening to her beautiful voice and takes liking to her. Tomorrow, one day ends up following her, and Fun finds out that the work she was going all along was selling her body to summarize. Not that pure Devora realizes the situation she's in and understands that she does it to feed her brothers and sisters. So he decides to stay quiet about it. The old monk finds a demon god while scouting, and he and Hyakkimaru go after it. We feel the first time, but on the second attempt, "You have tomato slice," the demon in his voice comes back. Upon returning to the cottage, B find it under attack by the samurai. "You have killed Mio and every last children on suspicion that Mio was giving intel to the enemy seed." Lifeless body of Mio triggers the sleeping rage within Hyakkimaru. The animation budget goes AWOL, and we get to see some crispy animated wholesome samurai slang. As morning approaches, they bury the dead and continue on their journey. The next demon they counter as a humongous entropy. The battle is intense, but he manages to kill it. Sense of smell and return, says time. The next episode, tomorrow, suddenly gets ill, so Hyakkimaru carries him and tries to find a doctor. A nun approaches them and takes the railroad to the temple. There as the treatment carries on to rural dreams of his past, how his father was the leader of a group that took money from the faithful samurai and gave it to the poor. But one day, one of their own Itachi silver plants to samurai, and they got ambushed. His father was heavily injured but still Fun until his last breath. Torero and his mother were all allowed. She did everything to protect and feed him and went hungry herself. Eventually his body gave up and passed away, leaving Tomorrow all by himself or herself. So it seems she's a girl, but you didn't know that. Zero eventually gets better, and they continue their journey. Elsewhere in the land of Dito, the demon gods being defeated by Hyakkimaru has led to weakening of the deal made by Daiba and the demons. This has led to the land of Dicho facing dry spells and threat of invasion by the neighboring country. The land is slowly returning to the story state that it was in before the deal was made. Also the second son of Daig, to whom Moto starts to find out about the existence of his older brother. He's hell-bent on proving himself to Daig, and to do this takes on a giant crab monster. He brilliantly traps the monster, but when it comes down to come back tomorrow, and his two guardians appear to be losing to stand, Hyakkimaru, who shows up and slays the crab team, and with a single slash to Humanoid, who still doesn't realize that Dakimoto is his brother, and the two parted ways after a short encounter. Hyakkimaru and Dororo enter the land of Daig in search for Daigu himself. Their encounters to demon god Fox Spirit of Fight results, but the fox escapes when Daiga intervenes. Hyakkimaru, who doesn't have any hostile intents for Dicho, but hearing him say, "Why are you even alive? Do you reek of demon child?" kick him out and become sad, leaps upon asking new Tomorrow, and Yuki, Tomato's mother, tells Tomato about the deal that happened 2 years ago. Hearing the entire story, Tomando was furious at his mother and father. But hearing that if Guc Tomato keeps killing the team and gods didn't land, will once again to return to his barren state. He can't make up his mind as to which side he should be on. A battle between Daigno's army and the neighboring army is about to go down near the Batman, and Hyakkimaru also shows up while going after the fox spirit as Hyakkimaru, who faces off against Daig Tomorrow, shows up and sides with Daigo. He apologizes to Hyakkimaru and says that in order to save the sled, he must perish. Look at them yapping like fools, thinking they can take on my boy. For God's sake, he's killing demons for loving. A fight erupts between the two brothers. The match blow for a moment, and when the fox spirit tries to go after Tomorrow and his friend who has tried to the Batman, Yamato slashes to homage to his left eye and sweeps in just in time to slay the fox spirit, but then gets sucked into the Batman. That is when his mother arrives. She looks at Hyakkimaru and gets down to her knees apologizing to him. She apologized and says that even though it wasn't fair to him, all that they can do now is thank him for his sacrifice, and killing the demons will bring Gru to the lead. Even his mother, the Bantam, collapses, causing Dicho's army to retreat. After this encounter, Hyakkimaru becomes obsessed with getting his body back and keeps hunting. He finds Mayanda, the moth demon, whose killing gives him back his spine. Around this time, he and Aurora get separated. Tororo gets picked up by Hitachi, was looking for his father's hidden treasure, and thinks that Dororo might have some clue, while Hyakkimaru heads to Dukai's to get his prosthetic leg fixed, after telling Jukai the entire story about his curse. Even he's confused as to what to do. At one side is Hyakkimaru we hold most dear, and on the other side is the entire land of Daig. Tachai at last refuses to give Yamada with a prosthetic leg jerky man who doesn't know what you guys name, as he didn't have his hearing back then. But before leaving, He touches Jukai Space and Coliseum Mama. This moves him to tears as Hyakkimaru hence the fight Aurora. Meanwhile, Dororo is headed for the island where his father's treasure is headed. A river separates them to the island to a boltsman named Shiva Nu. He approaches them and offers to take the Mitachi's men, divided into 2 boats, and to their shock sharks, are the ones pulling the boat. Shiva Nu he stops the boat midway and lets his shark devour one of the boats with all of it touches men in it. Shiva Nu he leaves and decides to come back later and finish the rest of it. As he's away, one of his sharks are keeping watch everyone's last hope of survival. But tomorrow comes up with a plan, and they work together to kill the shark. When Shiva Nu we returned, he finds one of his sharks down on the shore and goes to check. That is when Takai and his men beat him up pretty well and leave him to die. Itachi finds out that the candid map, which was engraved on the rose body, the lead to the treasure. He copies the map and ties Dororo to a tree. As they head up to the mountain, Shiranui calls out to the other shark. It turns out to be a demon. It eats the other shark and transformed to Givni proportion, given gross limbs to walk on land. As the demon shard lunges to eat the tied-up Dororo, Hyakkimaru jumps in at last moment in his light build-up. No, he's not sorry. Anyway, the fight between the shark and Hyakkimaru was short-lived as he easily kills the shark and gets his left leg back. All the transformation high for nothing, as Itachi is looking for the treasure's Tomato along with his army attacks. After a long battle, the army retreats. Itachi and Dororo end up finding the treasure, but Itachi still wounded by the finding that he dies without ever getting to touch it. Dororo leaves the treasure for now and decides to come back for later. Now determined to fight the demons, Hyakkimaru and Dororo keep marching forward. And then Hyakkimaru meets a woman at Koa and decides to give it all up and marry her. Wait, what? So it turns out that a small teen that lives in that village and makes people say the opposite of what they want. Thank God you scared me for a sec there. Anyway, the misunderstanding clears up and they head to a forest, or they encounter a simple doctor who claims to be a samurai and on a mission to slay the demon god Nui that inhabits the land. This demon looks like if 7 to 8 separate demons were thrown into a grinder, and this is what came out. It has the face of a lion and a gigantic snake has it still. It turns out that Chebatai is working with Nui and brings people for him to slaughter the steam, and holds both of Hyakkimaru's arms, but even after he slayed the arms are not returned. This infuriates Hyakkimaru, and he keeps stabbing the beast in rage. The Rero sees this, and is quite concerned about his recent change in behavior. If you're said Hyakkimaru might change for the bad. Soon after Hyakkimaru and Toronto are ambushed by Tomato. The fight wounds Tomato, but at last one of his men runs a horse towards Hyakkimaru, with bombs attached to it. The horse explodes and Hyakkimaru falls down the cliff. Dororo is taken captive. Hyakkimaru is still alive even after falling. The horse that exploded transforms into a flaming Yukai Rini. The Yokai Hyakkimaru begins a wholesome massacre. Dito is army making his way straight for Dito his palace to find Tomorrow. Tomorrow and his 2 guardians head to the demon temple to make a bargain. The demon refuses to bargain, say that only Hyakkimaru's body will be accepted. The demon Asuto grinds them. Both have a Hyakkimaru whose eyes and arms given them immense physical strength. The face-off against Hyakkimaru, and once again, the flaming horse yokai takes on the 2 guardians. Well, Hyakkimaru takes on Tomato. The yokai defeats the guardians, but with their last breath. They stamp the yokai as well, talk about who is devastated at the sight of his friend's death, to whom Madu and Hyakkimaru get to near their battle. Now in the castle, the battle rages on blow after blow, slash after flash, and finally, Hyakkimaru bests his brother. But he refrains from delivering the final blow, maybe in hopes of finally living like brothers. But the demon eyes of Tomato act and force him to attack the final demon. As sooner reveals himself, Hyakkimaru pledges his swords into the demon's score. And so comes his long journey to an end. He gets his eyes back and is complete. At last his mother and 2 Kai arrived at the castle and stay with the fallen Tomato. They tell Hyakkimaru to go and be with the one who truly cares about them. He finds Dororo, and they get out of the castle. Komodo looks at the Rero for the first time and calls her beautiful, which flusters her. As the commotion dies down, Hyakkimaru enters the demon temple, where he fights Daigle. Daigle at this point has lost all hope and is ready to die. But Hyakkimaru leaves him be, locks out on the machine, thus is one journey, and begins a new chapter of Hyakkimaru and Dororo.